Insidious. Out of the further post-credit scene. What does it mean? Warning: major spoilers. Insidious. Out of the further does have a mid-credit scene. It brings Cyrus Lam back after his apparent defeat and reveals that his punishment is far worse than simply being trapped in the further. Cyrus is strapped into the dead dentist's chair, while the demon he once used against Gemma turns his supernatural torture back on him. The scene also features Keyface, who locks the red door, suggesting that Cyrus may remain trapped in the further indefinitely. So, what exactly happens in the post-credit scene, and what does it mean for Cyrus and the future of the Insidious franchise? The scene is short, but it actually provides an important final chapter to Cyrus Lam's story. Throughout Insidious, out of the further, Cyrus is obsessed with escaping the further. He isn't satisfied with existing as a dead soul. He wants to return to the physical world, and he's willing to manipulate Gemma, her daughter Maya, and his own followers to accomplish that. But his plan ultimately collapses. Gemma discovers how to use her unique courier ability against him. Instead of allowing Cyrus and the other spirits to remain in the real world, she sends them back into the further. And once they're back, Cyrus' followers realize that he has failed them. They wanted freedom. Cyrus promised to give them access to the living world. Instead, they're trapped again. So they turn against their leader. But that's not actually the end of Cyrus. The movie has one final punishment waiting for him. Where does the post-credit scene take place? The scene takes us back into the further. Cyrus has survived the attack by his followers, but he's no longer in control. He's captured and placed inside a dental chair. And that chair belongs to one of the movie's most disturbing supernatural entities, the dead dentist. This is particularly significant because the dead dentist has already been connected to Gemma's story. Earlier in the film, Cyrus uses the demon dentist as part of his attempt to psychologically break Gemma and exploit her supernatural abilities. Now, the situation has completely reversed. Cyrus is the one sitting in the chair. And this time, nobody is coming to save him. What happens to Cyrus? Cyrus is strapped into the dentist's chair and struggles to escape. The dead dentist approaches him with the same horrifying drill that was previously associated with Gemma's torment. Then the dentist begins drilling into Cyrus' teeth. It's intentionally gruesome. We hear Cyrus screaming as the demon carries out the procedure. The scene is essentially Cyrus receiving exactly the kind of punishment he helped inflict on others. Nerdist confirms that the sequence was designed as the payoff to the dental horror imagery teased throughout the movie. And that's why the scene works as more than just a final jump scare. It's revenge. Why is the dentist torturing Cyrus? Because Cyrus betrayed the other spirits. His entire plan depended on promising the acolytes and other entities that he could help them escape the further. He convinced them that Gemma's courier ability could give them access to the real world. But Cyrus ultimately fails. Gemma reverses his plan. The demons are forced back into the further. And now they have no reason to trust him. Cyrus promised them freedom. Instead, they're trapped again. So the post-credit scene becomes a kind of supernatural punishment. The man who promised to lead everyone out is now the prisoner. Why is the dentist important? The dead dentist isn't simply a random monster inserted into the credits. The character is part of the movie's recurring dental imagery. Gemma works in the dental field, so the filmmakers repeatedly connect her profession with this supernatural horror. That creates an unusual contrast. Something normally associated with healthcare and helping people becomes terrifying. The dead dentist is essentially a grotesque supernatural inversion of Gemma's profession. And Cyrus previously had control over that creature. He was able to use it against Gemma. Now he has lost that protection. The same demon he once controlled is free to torment him. That's what makes the scene satisfying. Cyrus has lost his power. What does Keyface do? There's another important detail. Keyface appears during the sequence. Keyface is one of the recognizable demons from the earlier Insidious movies, particularly Insidious, The Last Key. He appears alongside the other entities and ultimately locks the red door. That detail is extremely important. The red door has always represented a passage between the further and the world of the living. By locking it, Keyface effectively seals Cyrus inside. The implication is that Cyrus isn't simply having a bad day in the further. He's being imprisoned, and there doesn't appear to be anyone coming to open the door for him. Is Cyrus dead again? This is where things get interesting. Technically, Cyrus is already dead. He's a spirit. So when his followers tear him apart in the main ending, that doesn't necessarily mean he's permanently destroyed. The post-credit scene proves that Cyrus survives in some form and remains trapped inside the further. That means the rules of death in the Insidious universe continue to be very different from normal human death. Destroying a spirit doesn't necessarily erase it. It can potentially remain trapped, reappear, or continue existing within the further. That's why Cyrus' punishment can continue even after his apparent destruction. Is Cyrus still a threat? Potentially. The movie doesn't show Cyrus escaping. In fact, the opposite happens. He's trapped. He's powerless. And he's being tortured. So there is no immediate threat from Cyrus. But the scene also doesn't definitively say that Cyrus can never return. Because the further doesn't follow ordinary rules, a character can potentially survive even after being apparently destroyed. That gives the filmmakers an opportunity to bring him back if they decide to continue the story. Still, there is no explicit sequel announcement hidden in the scene. It's primarily a conclusion to Cyrus' story rather than a traditional franchise tease. Does the scene set up Insidious 7? Not directly. This is an important distinction. A lot of modern horror movies use post-credit scenes to introduce a new villain, reveal a surviving character, or announce what the next movie will be about. Out of the Further doesn't do that. Instead, the scene is more of a dark epilogue. Cyrus has been defeated. Gemma has survived. Maya is safe. And the villain gets his punishment. There is no scene saying Cyrus will return. There is no new character walking into the real world. And there isn't a specific mission setting up the next film. However, leaving Cyrus alive inside the Further means the door isn't completely closed. Why put it after the credits? The placement is actually clever. The main movie ends with Gemma's victory. She has successfully defeated Cyrus and protected Maya. If the dentist scene had been inserted directly into the ending, it could have distracted from Gemma's emotional victory. Instead, the filmmakers allow her story to end first. Then, the credits provide a short final punishment for Cyrus. That means the audience gets two different endings. First, Gemma wins. Then, Cyrus gets what he deserves. This makes the scene feel like a bonus rather than something necessary to understand the main plot. Does it connect to the earlier Insidious movies? Yes. The appearance of Keyface is a clear connection to the wider Insidious mythology. It reminds viewers that although Out of the Further introduces a new family and a new supernatural concept, it still exists inside the same universe. The Further remains the connecting thread. Elise is still involved. The Red Door remains important. And familiar demons can still appear. The movie therefore expands the franchise without completely abandoning its history. What does the Red Door mean? The Red Door has always been one of the most recognizable symbols in Insidious. It represents a gateway into the Further. Here, Keyface locking it around Cyrus has a symbolic meaning. Cyrus spent the entire movie trying to open the door between worlds. He wanted to bring the dead into the physical world. But at the end, the door is closed on him. That's almost poetic. The man who wanted to escape the Further becomes one of its permanent prisoners. He spent his entire existence trying to control the boundary between life and death. Now someone else controls it. What does Cyrus' punishment mean? Cyrus' punishment reflects the central theme of his character. He was obsessed with control. He controlled his followers. He manipulated Gemma. He exploited Maya. He tried to control the Further. And he believed he could control death itself. But ultimately, he loses control of everything. His followers turn against him. Gemma defeats him. The dead dentist tortures him. And Keyface locks him inside the Further. So Cyrus ends exactly where he started. Trapped. The difference is that now he has no power and no followers willing to help him. Could Cyrus return? It's possible, but not confirmed. The post-credits scene leaves Cyrus alive in the Further rather than definitively destroying him. That gives the writers flexibility. If another Insidious movie wants to bring Cyrus back, they could explain how he escaped. But they could also leave him there permanently. The scene works either way. And right now, there's no confirmed information establishing that Cyrus will be the villain of another installment. Final answer. So, what does the Insidious out of the further post-credits scene mean? After Gemma defeats Cyrus by sending him and the other spirits back into the further, Cyrus' followers turn against him because he failed to deliver on his promise to help them escape. Cyrus survives their attack, but he doesn't escape. Instead, he's captured and placed in the chair of the dead dentist. The dentist then uses his drill on Cyrus' teeth, giving the villain a horrifying taste of the torture he previously helped inflict on Gemma. The scene also features Keyface, who locks the iconic red door and effectively seals Cyrus inside the further. That is the most important detail. Cyrus spent the entire movie trying to escape the further. He wanted to bring its dead inhabitants into the real world. But in the end, his punishment is to remain exactly where he never wanted to be, inside the further. And now he's powerless. The scene also serves as a callback to the movie's dental horror storyline and gives the dead dentist a final moment after being teased throughout the film. It doesn't directly announce Insidious 7, but Cyrus' survival means his story isn't necessarily impossible to continue. For now, however, the message is clear. Cyrus failed. Gemma won. The demons are back in the further. And the man who believed he could control death is now trapped in the very realm he spent his entire existence trying to escape. The final image of the locked red door is therefore more than a horror shot. It's Cyrus' prison. And perhaps the most fitting punishment possible for a villain who wanted to open that door for everyone else. He wanted out of the further. Instead, the further became his permanent home.